357 Productions is proud to once again present the Masonian, a monthly podcast for Freemasons with a focus on the grand jurisdiction of North Carolina. While not an official function of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, we operate with the full endorsement of Grand Master Douglas Cottle. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants and in no way reflect the opinions of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, its members, or any appendant bodies. 357 Productions does not own this music. If we did, we probably wouldn't be here.
Amen.
But we do love it. We do love it. So again, get ready for another great episode of the podcast, Masonian. Tonight we're very lucky to have Brother Gary Handy, Past Master Walnut Cove, number 629, Past Master Wilkinson College, Lodge number 760, DDGM, 26th District, and 33rd degree, Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite of North Carolina. So thank you, Brother Handy, for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And a whole bunch of other stuff. It was too long to list. We would have been here half the episode listing all the things Gary's involved in, and our particular buddy. So, Gary's one of these guys. Probably most everybody watching this podcast already knows Gary. But he's one of the busy guys. There's lots of guys in Masonry that talk about all the stuff they like to do, and then there's some guys that just do stuff, and Gary's a doer, not a talker. And it makes me awful happy to hang out with guys like that. They just don't come no better than Gary Handy. Gary Dean Wayne Handy, as Lynch would say.
Yes.
We're awful proud to have you here, Gary. I know you ventured over hill and over dale to get here. It's a long way from Walnut Cove down here. How many days did it take you to get here?
I actually left Tuesday morning, so I'm just right on time to get here.
Well, it
is a pleasure to be here. It really is.
We'll get you back to Jennifer about Sunday.
Miss Jennifer, yes.
Right.
And we were lucky the Tractor Shed fixed an awesome meal, so we'd like to thank all the guys at the Tractor Shed for taking care of that. Great reservations, great spot, and food was excellent, as always.
Looking out for us once again.
Again.
If you haven't been to the Tractor Shed, you got to put that on your list.
It's on Facebook. Check it out.
It's the bucket list. Got to do it.
Yeah. That's right. Well, the reason that we asked Gary to come on this episode, we always have some sort of an agenda. And, it's been about 6 weeks since we shot an episode. We usually shoot right before the end of the month and then try to have the podcast up at the end of the month. But last month we had Chris Hall, and we had to get him when we could get him, which meant that we were shooting about the middle of the month. So it's been about 6 weeks, and it seems like it has been a very long time. This episode, we're shooting today. It's August, what month is it? It's August 27th. So this will be the last episode that we shoot before the annual communication, and we thought that we would have an episode on the annual communication, and we chose Gary to talk about this for a couple of different reasons. With this being the focus of the thing, one is Gary is a member of the BGP, Board of General Purposes, which means that he's an official muckety-muck. He's in the inner circle. You know when the conspiracy theorists talk about their circles within circles? Well,
he is the elite.
Boom. That's our man right there. That's our inner. He's our inside guy.
Yes.
I was going to use the reference that they used during the Watergate campaign, but I don't think that would be appropriate for this episode.
Maybe not.
He's our inside spy.
Yeah. Let's keep it PG. So, yeah.
But in all seriousness, I knew that he would know a lot about both the amendments, and the other thing that Gary brings to the table for us is that Gary is the leader this year of the team, the committee, the group, the secret group that runs the annual communication. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Gary, tell us a little bit of history behind it. Now, when I came on that group, on that committee, I believe it was 2008 maybe when I came, or 2009. You had been on a year or two before me. Thompson.
Yeah. 2 years, yeah.
Yep. Worshipful Brother Larry Thompson was a member, and so was Sean Bradshaw, who both have gone on to bigger and better things now, and as they get made into the Grand Line guys, they've drifted away from us. And
unfortunately, yes.
And we're going to miss them a lot. But so now you've been elevated to the boss of this group. Prior to that, though, what was the guy's name that used to do it that Larry talks about so much?
The late, great Ron Page. I had the honor to actually work my first year on the committee was his last year. And what had kind of happened there, to give you just a little bit of backstory, the year before he did leave, he was having some health issues. He'd been doing it for 20 plus years and whatnot, and he was looking for a mentor, someone to groom. So some people said, we've got a kid in Blackmore Lodge, Larry Thompson, be perfect. So
little bit short bearded.
Little guy with a beard. That's right. Little guy with a beard. Don't worry about
Tiny
him.
beard.
Don't worry about him. It's a real trim beard. Yeah, he's fine. He's good. So Larry comes in in 07, and then in 08, Larry saying he was getting ready to take it. He wanted to bring in a couple people. So, of course, Sean Bradshaw, the spreadsheet king, he needed that type of guy. And also he would need, with Ron leaving, some of the people that he was counting on left with him. They were not any animosity or anything like that, but they just, they'd been doing it a long time. They were tired, new blood. So Larry asked me to help with the furniture and volunteers, being from the Winston-Salem area. Walnut Cove is like 30 minutes north of Winston-Salem. So I was brought in at that time for volunteers, logistics, furniture, that type thing. And that's how I got involved. And the next year, they brought in a kid named Ben Wallace. So,
right. So this is kind of a living animal here. As people, drift off of the committee, more people drift on. We've added a couple of more guys coming up for this year.
We'll talk about that some more if you like.
Because I think I'm fixing to retire from that committee.
Again, drifting off.
But you can't imagine how much doggone work it is. I mean, annual communication flows pretty good, especially since I've been there. We've been at the same venue. That makes it a tremendous amount easier than I couldn't imagine doing that if we were changing venues all the time. But, I mean, it just seems like, me and you're walking around and we got a little undercover microphones and everything's just going along just hunky-dory, but they just don't see the chaos that can be going on behind the scenes and the communication that goes on and the planning that goes into that thing. It's not a real committee, as far as I know. I mean, it's not an officially titled committee.
Yeah, it's not in the roster or anything like that. No.
But Larry, it's just some guys that have been appointed to look after it. So we stay in the embassy suites, and there's a room upstairs, which is the command central.
The command center.
And that's kind of where everything is run out of. All the staging goes on out of there, and all the spreadsheets are up there, and the radios and the orders and the and so it's interesting at the behind the scenes stuff that goes on. The first year that I worked, we didn't have the radios, and I bet I must have walked 1,000 miles that weekend, because it's like, Ben, run down there to the so-and-so room and see what's going on. So you go down there, then go all the way back up to the room and report. And then they're like, well, go to the room next to it now and see if they've got coffee.
Yeah.
Back down
it's
you
too
go.
late. Yeah.
So you're back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But fortunately, the hotel staff is really great, and we seem to have it down to a science by now. So every year it gets a little bit easier. Every year when we get done, the first thing we do is we sit down and we debrief, and we talk about all the things that we did right and all the things that we did wrong, and that just has helped us to get a little bit better every year.
Yes.
How about that?
That's wonderful. I was telling a couple of the guys sitting in this room is going to be doing sound for us. That seems to be the last year or so. One of the things, I don't want to say was wrong, but it could be better. So we was looking at people doing sound, and of course we've got a couple guys here, and I was talking to Sean. I said, now if you see something that's great, that's wonderful. If you see something that's bad, we need to know that. And that's what progresses this thing. You've got to have feedback. You've got to listen to your feedback. So, and I think that's, fortunately, the list of wrong is getting shorter, and the list of right is getting longer and easier and more understandable.
Right. Let's talk about some things that are going to go on this year that are a little bit different than other years. Let's start with Ms. Caudle's silent auction. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Grandmaster's wife, the beautiful Angela Caudle, she is going to have a silent auction. And if you're there as a delegate or not a delegate, anybody can come to annual communications. It's just for the 3 principal officers that's going to vote and whatnot. No, it's not. It's for everybody in North Carolina. If you would like to come to your annual communications and enjoy your brethren, dwell together, please do that. And at this time, this is going to be a silent auction. All the proceeds will be going to our charities. It's a wonderful idea. Come and see something that you like. It's just as simple as writing down your name and your credit card information, and you can take it out on Saturday. So
where's it going to be set up? Do you know?
it's going to be set up. Actually, those who's familiar, this back and forth. Again, the good thing about being at the same place, the rooms, you know where the rooms are at. This would be up the little steps and up the handicap ramp going towards the elevators. It'll be on your right. It'll be, I forget, and I do forget the name of it. It's like the Gaines 1 or Gaines 2 or something like that.
So I think it'll be directly across from the vendors.
Yeah, we'll have
directly across from the vendors.
No, the vendors are going to be directly beside the elevators, and that's another great thing this year. You know, those have been to the vendor space. You know, it is tight. You know, what's the old joke? It's the tight. The mice are hunchbacked in there. So we're going to actually that it can be made into 2 rooms. So we're going to do away with one of the rooms that was for instructional uses and put them in another room that would be comparable and open that up for a huge, large vendor space.
Good. It can get awful tight.
It's
in the
very
vendor
tight
space.
in there, yes.
And
so
everybody likes the vendors. I mean, everybody loves to
everybody
go in there
wants something, so you can get that. You can stop by and see the auction. I'm sure there's many, many different items that's going to be donated. This is all for profit for our charity, so I would recommend please stop by.
They splitting it 3 ways between the 3 charities.
That I'm unsure of, but the charities.
Ryan Flynn, who drew our picture back here, I doubt you can see it on camera, but he has donated a picture. So what will happen is,
Thanks to you.
well, you know, we strong armed him. We held.
While he was here for the
You had him in a
podcast.
tractor shed.
we held him down and put the hard sell on him. But so the deal is, if you win his silent auction ticket, then what you'll do is you'll take a picture of your lodge and send it to him, and he will do a painting of it.
Awesome.
And you can take multiple pictures, and we may even, well, he's going to be in North Carolina before too terribly long again. Next year, we know he's going to be back in August, so maybe he can actually go see your lodge if it works out in time, or we may even have him come back and do a program. He was a great presenter.
Very cool.
So excited about that. So I hope Miss Angela raises a bunch of money. It's the first time I can remember anybody doing anything like that, one of the Grandmaster's wives.
Yeah,
And,
very noble, very noble. Please go by. It's
go by.
simple. Please go by.
Yeah, so I'm sure there'll be good stuff. Everybody be sure and hit that up. Second thing I know of that's going on differently this year is the music, and I don't want to spoil anybody's secret, but Grandmaster Caudle is a big fan of music in Lodge. We use a lot of music at Sophia, our traditional observance lodge, and we're not trying to make annual communication into TO at all. It's going to be very far from that. But he does like the idea of using music in ritual and in lodge meetings. It makes for a deep, rich experience. You know, some of the most coolest things that I personally have seen at Grand Lodge have involved music. One of the first years I was there, maybe the second year I was there, Grandmaster Fitch from the Prince Hall Lodge got up after Cliff Everett had made a really good, very long speech, and Grandmaster Fitch got up and said a few words for maybe 60 seconds, best I recall, and then he sang a song, and everybody sang with him. He sang "This Little Light of Mine," and it was powerful. It was very powerful. And Grandmaster Cash has sung, I think twice at Lodge, I can remember.
Sing the prayers. Yes.
And it just, I mean, it just makes it come alive. It's so much more than the spoken word. It just grabs you deeper at an emotional level.
It's raw.
So,
it's very raw.
yeah, so I think I think the Grandmaster wants to play on that this year. Wants to play up that. Plus, there's generally a movement in North Carolina, and you're going to be hearing a lot about this over the next year or two, to reintroduce music back into the lodge. Our Bonson manual is full of music. There's music for each of the 3 degrees. There's music for opening. There's music for closing. And it was in there for a reason. It's in there because they used to use it all the time.
That's right.
And in addition to a movement to bring music back, there's generally a movement afoot in North Carolina to kind of bring back a lot of our rich traditions, things that just kind of fell by the wayside at different times. And you're gonna hear a lot of noise about getting back to those things. And this is kind of the first stab at that by having more music at Lodge this year.
Yes.
Don Barrier is going to be leading that charge. Riley's involved in it. Sean Brown's involved in it back there. How you doing back there, Brown?
Doing great.
All right. So they're going to help on the tech side. Mac Cashin will be back like he always is.
Yes.
But we're really excited about introducing some new and different concepts into the Grand Lodge. Or those guys are. I'm not really involved in what they're doing, but I'm just peripherally aware of it. But I'm excited about seeing this happen, both at Grand Lodge and back in our regular lodges. What do you think?
Exactly. You know, how many people, I don't know how many, you know, I'm sure it's millions of listeners there's listening at us or will be listening. How many of lodges has a piano, has an organ? Why is there a piano and there's an organ in the lodge room? You know, a lot of people would say, well, it's the Eastern Star or one of it, but no. At one time, music was very, very integral in our degrees, and I think we need to get back to that. And I think the Grand Master made a statement, you know, this has been hiding in plain sight the whole time. You know, you look at your Bonson, you seem to gravitate more towards learning a closing charge, a prayer or something, but you just kind of music. You flip over it and you keep going. It should be really, really exciting at the Grand Lodge, and maybe people seeing that experience will go back and say, hey, we have a piano. We have, you know, Riley can play the piano, Ben can sing, you know, and start something like a grassroots back to whence we came from, seeing something like that.
And just going back to how moving music is. I mean, if we think about introducing music back into the degrees, think about a candidate going through the degrees and hearing modern day instrumental music that is touching and just grabs you when you start hearing it during that degree. I mean, that's really going to make that degree just that much more meaningful. And it can really make, as you were saying, the whole experience just that much richer, just by just simple music.
Were any of you there at Sophia when we were using it during the degrees?
Yes.
I mean, it's powerful. It's powerful.
It changes the whole dynamics of it changes everything. Yeah. Something that is the same is now different in a lot of different ways, but it's the same. It's powerful. Yeah, I think you said it correctly.
So everybody can be on the lookout for a lot of music stuff coming up over the next year and a half or 2 years. It's it's going to be ongoing. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of it, and I'm really excited. Annual communication also has they'll have committee meetings the day before since a lot of guys are there. Most of all the committees meet.
Thursday would be the big committee meetings.
There's a lot of volunteers that go into this thing we haven't mentioned yet. Why don't you just run down through a laundry list of all the other entities that are volunteers and give them a shout out.
The circle within the circle within the circle, that type thing. You know, we have the count of the people. I don't want to say quarterbacking, but that type of thing is kind of overseeing. You have a large amount of volunteers there, and I say volunteers. They're on their own money, their own gas. They come because they love the craft, so they're there. Tiling the doors.
Yep.
You've got, people doing credentials, and that's a job into itself. That is, as far as that goes, the logistics of that.
Tim Parker and his crew do
Tim
that.
Parker does that.
Who's in charge of the towers?
Tom Dolinger, and we all know Tom. And I was one that I had to hand off. I enjoyed doing it, but fortunately we've got some of the same people that come back year after year. Chris Wright, some folks out of Kernersville Lodge, and some folks around the Winston-Salem Tri-Area.
The guys that pay the bills, what are they called?
They're the vouchers, and they take care of that. That is David Simmons, Cliff Pranke, some folks like that. Maybe even Eddie Moody might come back. Eddie's been doing it since.
And the guys that bring the furniture for the lodge.
Those are, again, they're kind of the logistics of getting the furniture there. The Grand Lodge does not have, they have some, but you don't want to bring it. It's kind of like it was donated by somewhere, and it was near a quarry, and they're huge. You need like a skid steer to move them, to get them there. So, you don't think about things like that. They come from a lodge. It used to come out of Walnut Cove Lodge, and you've helped load the truck before. It was something as simple as a guy in a pickup truck, two guys in a truck that would get it there. So now it's got a little bit more easier. We're using the stuff out of what was 34 Miller, the Masonic Temple Company Corporation in Winston-Salem. Now they're building a new building, and they have it in storage. So we have several guys. Bruce Ayers kind of heads that up. Cliff Pranke, he's got the keys to the storage buildings, I would say. And they've got those guys. D. Millay come and helped last year. I mean, it was a very moving little article that someone shared with me. Was the Master Counselor, I think it was, Alan Willard. He wrote, it was such a pleasure to be with these guys that we think of as our mentors, the rock stars in our life as far as leadership and who to look to, and to go actually hang out with the Masons and actually help with their big, huge annual event and move is something as menial as moving some staffs or something. And they felt to be part of the craft. So we need to keep those involved. We want the youth groups involved. They do help out. And
cool.
I'm trying to think about it's so many moving parts. It's easy to forget again.
Yeah,
the sound guys, we got to have the sound guys. We have to have that. We have to have Mike Cashin. When you sit there and look at all the nice PowerPoints pop up at the right time, all of a sudden the jurisprudence report is up. All of a sudden the budget is up. When they talk about budget, someone's doing that.
Vicky and April, they're paid, but
cannot
they're
forget the
there.
ladies. But they probably they make it tolerable to have the nice ladies there with us. And Vicky does the vendor room. So Vicky, when you see the vendor room, she's kind of coordinated that. The people paid to have the vendor spots, and she takes care of that and assigns the spots and everything, and puts up with the people that want, I don't want to be here, I want to be there. I don't like this table, I want that table, that type of thing. And she does a good job with that.
Real good. All right, let's move on and talk about some of the amendments that are coming up. One of the big focuses that we wanted to have on this show was, well, not big focus, but one of the things that we wanted to hit was to bring up these amendments. I feel like some lodges probably don't discuss them a whole lot when their guys are getting ready to come. And the guys, come in when they're ready to vote, they're being exposed to it for maybe the first time, or maybe they've got their paper. I know all the master and wardens get these, but maybe they hadn't really read them over. Let's hit some of the highlights on some of the things.
Yes.
The eligibility to serve, this is talking more or less that there was a discussion last year about if a guy needed to live in the district or not, or in the state, in the jurisdiction. I don't know, I can kind of see both arguments of that. And one of these are, the best I can tell, one of these is what happens if he's already serving on a committee and then moves out of state in the middle of the year. And then the other one is what if he's just out of state altogether? Should he be able to serve or not? Certainly, I think that if he's already serving and he just happens to move across the line,
should be allowed to serve it out.
Yeah, year.
Makes sense. Sounds fair.
I don't see why not. If they're living out of state, what the amendment is saying, if I understand it right, just to paraphrase, is that they'll do that at the Grand Master's discretion. So if a dude lives in California, the Grand Master's probably not going to let him do it. But if a guy lives in
Rock Hill,
and he's a member of a North Carolina lodge, he'd probably let him do it. I think you got to trust the Grand Master that much, whoever he is. I mean,
trust the leadership of the Grand Lodge. You're exactly right. You may have, they're not members of the Grand Jurisdiction of North Carolina. They just happen to live, again, in Rock Hill, maybe in a little sleepy little bedroom community across the line in Virginia, or in Tennessee, maybe the case. Trust your Grand Master.
How you feel about this minimum initiation fee? Which the deal is to let the Grand Master set it, right?
Each Grand Master would set it.
After going through the jurisprudence committee, but basically the Grand Master setting it.
To me, it's like I said, it's the first part of the vetting process. You've got to ante up, and we've all had summer jobs as kids or whatnot, and the time that you worked all summer to go buy those new pair of Nikes or something, you took better care of them, than someone giving them to you, that you got dirty and left them on the porch, left them in the rain. So to me, that's more important. They should have a little bit more. But I understand that people say that, whether it's maybe a rich man's game or they can't get the money up. But to me, it is, I've seen some people that were of less means, but if they wanted a new bike, they wanted a new motorcycle, they would have a new motorcycle, no matter what it takes. So this is prioritizing. What does it mean to be a Mason? How much does it mean to be a Mason?
It's like we've talked about numerous times. How much does this experience mean to you? Right. We're all members of numerous lodges. Sophia being one of the more expensive lodges. But is this experience worth $1 a day? And the question is yes. I mean, it is. So I know we beat it to death probably, but for us it's valuable, and you've got to make money.
Well, you go through the whole process. If Ben paid your $10 or $50 or $100 initiation cost, and you didn't have any vetting in it, and it becomes a time you say, well, I don't have nothing in it. This is too hard. This is not what I wanted, or vice versa. So it's easy to walk away from something like that, other than something that you have actually vested in. So I like it for that purpose. Also, I see both sides of the coin.
How do you feel about this deal where if we vote on something and it's defeated, that they don't want to bring it up for another 5 years?
really don't care for that, and the reason being, and I understand some people saying, this they beat it to death, it went down, why bring it up another 25 times? You got to remember, you're taking away the sovereignty of the Grand Lodge. You're taking their process away, telling them what to do. For that reason, I don't like it.
Well, if you look down through this list, you'll see that some of this stuff is proposed by the Grand Master.
Mm-hmm.
I think one by the Grand Secretary's office. It was like some housekeeping stuff.
A lot of housekeeping.
But most of this is stuff coming up from lodges.
Mm-hmm.
So if something's brought up and another lodge in the state wants to bring it up again the next year, and it gets on the ballot, I don't see what's wrong with voting on it every year.
It's a democratic process. It would be the same thing as telling you what you can or cannot do.
I mean, I understand what's happening is when we get controversial things, they come up every year, and eventually it seems like they pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the purpose of this thing, I guess we should have somebody on from this lodge to explain why it is that they don't want to do it. But I'm assuming that what they're thinking is, if we have something that's controversial and we vote it to not do it or to do it, they vote it one way or the other. We keep having to bring it up until the Grand Lodge gets their way. I think that's the way it's perceived. Mm-hmm. But it's not the Grand Lodge bringing it up every time. It's oftentimes other subordinate lodges.
Yeah.
Wilkerson College Lodge has proposed several.
Which pretty much would be talking about the alcohol. I mean, it's brought up all the time, and I think this probably originated from that, saying, hey, let's do this and be done with it for at least a while.
Mm-hmm. But, the alcohol thing to me is perfect. It put it back in the hands of each subordinate lodge. And a lot of folks go to Grand Lodge saying the Grand Lodge versus us.
Right.
Don't understand. It's the 370 plus subordinate lodges of North Carolina that makes the Grand Lodge. You are the Grand Lodge. So,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Scottish Grand Lodges system, and that is that they're not very heavy-handed when it comes to telling their lodges what they do, because the Scotsmen won't put up with it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to lodge in Scotland, they're all wearing different colored aprons, and that's because each lodge gets to make up their own, decide what kind of aprons they want to wear. They get to decide what kind of ritual they want to do. Their ritual is not standardized in Scotland. Peter Taylor told me when I was over there that you could go see a third degree or whatever degree at multiple lodges, and it's going to look different at every one. They don't have a standard of work over there, and that's because they trust their subordinate lodges to be able to be grown-ups and govern themselves. And I'm sure if they do something stupid, then I'm assuming the Grand Lodge of Scotland will smack them down. But I think you got to put some trust in your fellow Masons. I mean,
and I think
Cliff Porter used to say this a lot. I mean, if you can't trust a man, to do right, then he doesn't need to be your brother to begin with.
That's right.
I'm a big fan of putting it back in anything back in the hands of
what you preach
lodges.
kind of deal.
I mean, I love the Grand Lodge. I just think that less federal government's good and less Grand Lodge government's good. We've got to have rules to live by, but let's put it back in.
And with the alcohol thing, I thought it was perfect. Give it back to the lodge. Yeah. Do you or do you not want to do this? And it's that simple. Do you want to or do you not want to? And that's black and white. You don't get much simpler than that.
Here's an interesting question. Brown, you got any time what time we started?
About 10 till.
Okay. So we've got like 35 minutes left. Okay, we're out at 50. What else you want to talk about these amendments? What else is on here that's interesting?
You tell me.
You tell me. It's my show.
It's your show.
It's our show.
Yeah.
They're always funning me about it being my show, but it's not. It's our show. I didn't see anything else on here that I
not
thought
earth shaking.
Really
in the past we've had, I think, a lot of the hot button taboo stuff has actually been put to bed. I see, just a couple things here. It maybe just a little bit boring as far as some of the fireworks might come up, but.
All right, let's talk about some fun stuff now.
Let's talk about it.
We just came back. You just came back from Washington, D.C.,
yes, I did.
Where you were last weekend, and we just came back from Philadelphia, where we were at the MRF conference. You were doing Scottish Rite stuff. So the Masonic Restoration Foundation is a loose consortium of all the traditional observance lodges, and they have a symposium once a year, and it moves around to different places. This year it was in Philadelphia, and if you are ever traveling in the vicinity of Philadelphia, they have tours that you can take of that Grand Lodge building, and it is incredible. It's spectacular. It's just, you can't describe it, can you?
You absolutely can.
It's really, 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 really really good.
I hope you guys took some pictures. We're going to put that on the Facebook and website.
Yeah, Brown got pictures.
Awesome.
But the symposium was really good. Brian Scoff ran it this year. He did a really good job. Got to see some really good speakers and just had a good time. You get to see a bunch of other TO guys, and as you start to develop relationships with those guys, it's just good to see them once a year in an environment where you're not quite, well, you're pretty rushed, but not quite so rushed. Get to sit down, have a beer, shoot the breeze, solve the world's problems, and learn some stuff from really famous guys that have written books and stuff. I'm not going to call them all out right here, but really brilliant minds in masonry, and there you are just getting to hang out with them and just talk philosophy. So really good time up there, and there was some spectacular news that came out of that. North Carolina put in a bid to host the MRF Symposium next year in 2016, and we were successful. So the Masonic Restoration Foundation Symposium is going to be in Asheville next year in August. It's the third weekend in August. I believe it's the 20th, 21st, 19th, 20th, 21st, something like that. And we have a ton of work to do, but we're super excited to be hosting it. Asheville's a great city for it. We'll be able to stay either at the Renaissance or that other hotel right next to it, and be able to walk to the lodge, be able to walk to all the restaurants, and the North Carolina guys are going to be doing the ritual. We're putting together the programming. We're going to be running the whole show, and if you are a Mason in North Carolina, you absolutely want to put that on your calendar now, because it is going to be spectacular, and it's a big, big deal. You going?
I'm there.
You going?
Sure.
Commitments. I'm getting commitments right now. Make a list, Brown.
I'm putting it on the calendar now. That's why I was going to ask you to repeat the date again.
Yeah, it's August. I'm pretty sure it's August the 20th. But it's that third weekend in August. We'll talk about it every episode between now and then.
Shameless plugs.
Shameless.
Now, in Philly, did you actually was the meeting in the Grand Lodge Philly building?
Yeah.
And which room did it have it in? And now there's several rooms, and each one is more magnificent than the other. Which one did it have it in?
Right. So there were three primary rooms that we used, and I don't remember the names.
The Gothic.
One of them was the Norman.
Yeah.
I know that. And the other one,
you got one is it Corinthian Lodge or something like that. And you got a Gothic room, you got Egyptian type setting rooms, and each one of them you cannot pay attention to what's going on. You're kind of looking at all the intricate work and stuff.
Yeah, one was the Norman, and the other had kind of like a Greek motif, but I can't remember the name of it. And then we used the big room, the big lodge room, for opening and closing, and they did the degree in there and stuff.
And that was Corinthian.
That was the Corinthian.
The Corinthian room, yeah.
So, I mean, it was a really good time. Philadelphia's a spectacular town. We had a ball. We went to Independence Hall. We saw the Liberty Bell. We went to Christ Church, sat in, Ben Franklin and George Washington's pews, and just on and on the history that goes on there.
A lot of firsts in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
First Masonic Lodge. Did they go? Yeah, I'm sure you took the tour around, and then they'd show you that up near the river.
Yeah,
a lot of cool things.
So if you get to Philadelphia, go see that. But we're really pumped about the MRF Symposium. Another thing that we've got going on pretty soon is we're going to have a Prestonian lecturer coming. For those of you that don't know, the United Grand Lodge of England has a Prestonian lecturer that they appoint every year, and that's like the dude with the best lecture in England. I'm sure that's not nearly the right parlance to explain that, but so they pick a guy from Quattrocarnati. This guy's from Quattrocarnati. He's like their treasurer, but that just happens to be the case. It doesn't have to be from QC. But he wrote a paper that they deemed was the best paper, and so he's the Prestonian lecturer. So he goes all over, I guess all over the world, giving these lectures. So I saw that he was going to come. I saw it on HOTAP's site that he was coming to Atlanta to give some kind of presentation to somebody, and said that while he was here, if anybody wanted to get him to come to their lodge, then to contact him. So we put the wheels in motion, and later that day, the deputy Grand Master called me and said, "Ben, you know what a Prestonian lecturer is?" I'm like, yeah. I saw he was coming, and we got together, and he saw it independently and wanted to make it happen, and it has. We're scheduled. That's going to be January 6th, 7th. January 7th. We're not sure if it's going to be in Charlotte or Raleigh. We're still working out a few details, but the dude is, the gentleman is booked, and we're really excited about having that. And if I remember right, his talk is on, I believe it's on the Enlightenment ideas that were used in that migrated their way into speculative masonry. Pretty sure that was it. So should be a really good talk. They don't let just any knucklehead go out and give Prestonian lectures, I'm sure. So we're super pumped about that. Tell us about being in D.C. and the goings on up there with the Scottish Rite. We're all Scottish Rite guys, so let's shamelessly plug Scottish Rite.
Shamelessly plug Scottish Rite. Anytime, any place. It was the annual session of the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree, and it took place in Washington D.C., which is the seat of power for that. We had the conferral of the degree. We had several guys from North Carolina that were there, one of them being our Grand Master, Speed Hallman, and I can't remember his title right now. Senior Grand Deacon, maybe something like that. Yeah. One of the deacons, he was there to receive his, David Hargett, Gilbert Bailey, our buddy, Gilbert Bailey, Ray Ashby out of Winston-Salem. Several, North Carolina was represented well. A great session, me being doing what I do, and I was looking at how they set it up. How did the sound sound? How did the logistics of it? That's what I was kind of more paying attention to. But a wonderful.
Sounds like Brown.
It was a wonderful time. Everybody that's Scottish Rite needs to go to the House of the Temple. Look at that. Again, Speed Hallman is our orient person for that foundation to raise some money for, to continually perpetuate that building in endowment. So they're talking a large number, but it can be done. So talk to him if you would like. I'm sure he could set something up for you if anybody would like to go up and maybe take a Masonic tour of D.C. We've done the George Washington Masonic Memorial. I've never been there before, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous.
I love Scottish Rite.
I do. It's my. I don't want to say. I don't. It was my
easy,
first.
Easy, big boy.
It was my first appendant body, and I compare the appendant bodies like children. You love them all.
Yeah.
But there's a different type of love for each one of them. So that is a different type of love. Is my first.
Yeah. We're all Greensboro Valley, and when I first got in, I don't know if I can say all this, but I'm going to. When I first got in Scottish Rite, that's right. In Greensboro, it was just not a good time. All whether it's a Blue Lodge or all the way up to the Grand Lodge, I'm sure they go through peaks and valleys. And Greensboro was in a valley, man. It was just not a good place.
Had some challenges at one time.
There were not good vibes. There just wasn't good energy. It just was not a comfortable place to be, and everybody's mad at everybody. And there was a temple board, and that was a mess. But all that's changed now. We got Gene Cobb for personal representative, and if anybody can straighten something out, it's Gene. And he did it with a lot of love and compassion and respect. And the other thing Gene did that I would never be able to do is he did it with patience. I want to run down there and fix every problem right this very minute. And Gene's being very patient, and he has already brought that valley back and to a really good place, and we're going to an even better place. I love the degrees. I love the lessons of the degrees. I love the pageantry of those degrees. Our degree work is getting better and better up there every reunion.
I must agree.
And I can't speak for the other valleys because I don't know much about the other valleys, but boy, Greensboro's in a good place. If you're a Mason in the central part of the state and you're in Greensboro's jurisdiction, go
check it out.
Go join the Scottish Rite. It's really a happy place to be. Charlotte, I don't know. Again, I don't know much about Charlotte because I'm not a member over there. But they announced the other day that our buddy Gilbert Bailey is going to be the PR over there, and I could not be more thrilled for those guys. I have so much respect for Gilbert. He is a really smart guy. He's a deep guy.
Solid.
He's solid.
He's very solid. And they are, not that they were in a bad place before, but I'm sure we'll be in a better place. And it's nothing going from good to better. There's nothing says you can't do that. So I think with Gilbert is a smart choice.
And Gilbert's a good leader.
And Ed Beckton has been just a poster child for leadership too. And it all comes a time, where we lose a little spring in our step, and it's time for some changes.
Gilbert Bailey is going to be a leader in masonry in North Carolina for a long time.
I would tend to agree with that. Yes.
And going to be good at it.
Oh, very good at it. Yeah.
All right, that's enough love for Gilbert. But we really do like him.
We do.
An awful lot. Riley, what you got?
I don't have anything, boss. You're the pack leader.
Yeah.
Gary?
Well, thinking about go back to the Grand Lodge just for a moment. The work that goes in from our crew, our little group, and all the different little subgroups, whatever, we always forget the grand officers. They're putting in a lot of work. Also, a lot of preparations for bringing guests from other jurisdictions. You went to Philadelphia to your Masonic Restoration Foundation. You felt warmth, you felt love, you felt like you was a part of something. The same thing goes with our Grand Lodge and their officers. Greeting outside guests, making them comfortable, making them have a good experience when they leave North Carolina, and you got to give your hats off to those folks too to put that type of thing together.
The problem is I brag on the Grand Line so much and how much I love our Grand Line that I kind of coming across as a homer for them, Kind of. We don't want to look like we're sucking up or anything.
We're not, but Brother Handy's right. I mean, they go out of their way. I can say recently, and I'd love to take this chance to. Recently, my wife had some health issues. It was unbelievable the outpouring from the Grand Lodge that I received. Text, phone calls, and I don't mean just general short text, hope everything's good, or a short phone call. Hey, just checking in. I mean, long, drawn-out phone calls, text, cards from guys who were, they just know me from the different groups that we're in, predominantly because of our pack leader. But again, it really, they made me feel special and loved, especially the Grand Line guys, and our own brothers have all done that. But it was amazing. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and that's what's great about North Carolina is that type of thing. When we want people to come from wherever, the Masonic world brings them to, we want them to leave North Carolina's annual communication happy. It's just like going to a nice Broadway musical. You want to leave humming a song. So we want them to leave humming and praising North Carolina. And so, and it's I don't want to say a difficult task, it's a daunting task, but one done with love.
Right. Well, those guys rock, man. We are so lucky here in North Carolina. You talk to people from other states, and their Grand Lines are just not what ours are. I'm very happy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some jurisdictions, I read this in the book somewhere. So I hear it somewhere. But a lot of it is a lot of the good old boy things. Is some of the problems we see in our own lodges. But it's his turn to do something, and a lot of times, in all fairness, because it's someone's time to do something is not right, and you're doing a disservice to your organization and to the person you put into a role who's not prepared to do something.
Right.
You're setting him up to fail.
Well, they made
and we sit back and say, why didn't this do this or that? You had the wrong person, and you knew it, but you didn't when you wouldn't admit it.
Well, the guys who picked our current Grand Line, years ago, did a doggone good bang-up job. I'm really happy with where we're at. Who's Bryant going to pick this year?
That seems to be the going thing. I had a long conversation on the way down the road.
Who you got in the pool?
We need to start a pool. That was one of the things. Let's all start, throwing a little money.
I told Bryant this weekend
for the charities. We'll give it to the charities.
For the charities, of course. I told him we had a pool. I told him this weekend we had a pool. He's like, really? I'm like,
And he can't play.
And he can't. No, he can't play. No. He's out.
Yeah.
Anyway. Really good stuff here in North Carolina. Gary, I can't thank you enough for coming down.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really do. I've watched these, and they're really cool. I applaud you for what you're doing. This is masonry, and this is going out on the radio for you.
Labor of love, isn't it, bro?
That's right.
Yeah.
We're doing good stuff. We feel good about what we're doing here. I don't know. We don't have as many listeners as you think we do. We were expecting like thousands and thousands of listeners, but we don't get that. But the guys that do watch it seem to enjoy it, and we got nowhere to go but up. The next one, which will be a month from now, we're going to have Right Worshipful Brother Daniel Thompson from the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Lodge. We are dying for that episode. We've been
super excited.
We've been looking for somebody from the Prince Hall Grand Lodge to come speak to us.
Oh, yes.
We think that Daniel Thompson is the right one. Several of the Grand Line officers pointed us to him. Very excited. Ken Weichel's going to see about riding up with him, and so because he's from the Fayetteville area, he's in the military, or I don't know if he's retired or still active duty, but Ken says that he knows him well, and so he's going to ride up with him. Really excited to be talking about Prince Hall Grand Lodge and the AF and AM lodges, and I just think it's time for us maybe to start extending a hand to them and start doing a little more with them. It's been a few years since recognition. It's been 8 years, and we think it's time to reach out a hand. So next month we're going to have him, and we may do more than an hour with him. We may do an hour on the podcast and then turn around and talk for another hour. 1,000 questions I want to ask him. So be sure and tune in next month. Until then, let's roll it up out of here, Brown.
Here we go.
I am smelling like the roses somebody gave me on my birthday deathbed. I am smelling like the roses somebody gave me 'cause I'm dead and protected.
Thanks again to Brother Gary Handy for coming out and speaking with us tonight, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Masonian. For more information and productions, please visit and like our Facebook page at 357 Productions. You may also email us at 357productionsteam@gmail.com. Again, that's 357productionsteam@gmail.com. As always, tell people that you love them, and remember, we meet on the level and part on the square.